Mozart K545. It's the one we all teach. It's the one that adjudicators hate so much. Yeah, here we are. Triumph. They all love it. I love it so much. That isn't quite the way Mozart intended it, right? But we have to practice it that way in order to get it. And by the way, I cut this down a lot. In our book, we talk about doing a 4-note trill. That's not the only option. You can have a 3-note trill or a 2-note trill. And I often teach the 2-note trill to the kids. So we get this 1 da and a 2 da and a 3 da and a 4 da and a 1 da and a 2 da and a 3 da and a 4 da and a 1. Now that sounds pretty simple and bare bones, but when you speed it up, it's perfectly acceptable. And I find I often do now a 3-note trill. So you can, anything is possible. Work it out to suit the kid. It doesn't matter. But measuring is what you do first, so that when you then start to play it, and usually when I was really trying to make that 3 thing work, I don't know what I was doing. It doesn't matter. But I didn't need to worry about it because I'd already measured it out and I knew what was supposed to happen in there. So those things work very well. Okay, now we need to get back to this counting chart. I would just like to take one more minute to show you how we do the counting system, how to teach them how to do the subdivision of the counting and how to write it in on their score so they'll feel very, very comfortable. Do we need to stop for a minute and have that little bit of a break? Chuck, do you need...
Doesn't matter to me.
How are you feeling? Would you like to stop a minute and have a break, or you want to keep on going? You're a keener! That's what you are, Anthony. It's so nice to have you here in the class. He's shaking his head. He didn't want to take a break. Well, anybody that needs a break, of course, is free to walk and leave the room, but I don't want to say anything important while you're gone. But if you're all okay, I'm fine continuing on. Okay, because this is so much fun, I think. Now, so when we want to teach the children how to write in the counting on the score, and it's got to be their hands doing it, they do not know how to look at a score because they're not experienced. So we have to give them some way of teaching them how to do it. You know, there's lots of other, or there is at least one other system of learning how to understand rhythms, and that is by learning however many, I don't know, 17 or 32 or whatever it is, all the different possible rhythmical combinations there are in any one beat. And I don't think that works as well. I'm not a very bright person, I guess. I cannot make that work for myself. I can only make this work because I can make sense of where I am, first of all, in the measure and in the beat itself. And I have to have it really spelled out very clearly, or I'm a dead duck. So what we do is the trick that I learned when I was learning how to do tailoring. And we had to set in a sleeve. Now, the mark of a really wonderful set-in sleeve in tailoring is that there are no puckers in the sleeve. It has to be completely... Well, oh, you think that's no problem at all? Then you take this sleeve that has about 6 times more material than the armhole you're going to fit it into. Well, how can you possibly get that fitted in on there and not have great gathers and puckers all over it? Well, they teach you how to position the material by pinning it, top and bottom, side to side, 1/8, 1/16, 30 By the time you finish setting that sleeve in, you have a row of pins that looks like a porcupine. There's so many pins, but there is no pucker between each one of these by now minuscule little bits of cloth. And that's basically what we do here. So first thing you do is you write in where beat 1 is, where beat 2 is, where beat 3 is, and where beat 4 is. And you go all the way through it. So often looking at the left hand is helpful because you can see where the whole beat is. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you go back in and you subdivide. Now you don't subdivide smaller than the smallest unit of rhythm that you're going to need in the piece. And in this case, it's only eighth notes. So we then put in the eighth notes, and even if an eighth note is not appearing in that quarter note, you put it in anyway because that's what you're going to be counting. And that is the way we do it with every piece of music. And so if it's 16th notes, you have to go down to the 16th note value. So after writing in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, you would then go back and mark in the tas. 1 ta anta, 2 ta anta, 3 ta anta, 4 ta anta, and so on. It works, and you do that until there's no notes left. That really works. Now sometimes in a fast piece, if it has 30-second notes, but we don't want to go down that far, we just say ha. I don't write anything in for that. We just say ha-tu, 3 ta anta, ha-tu, if we have to put that in. If it is a very complex rhythm, in an adagio, say, a Mozart adagio, you might use what gets the count of 1, because that takes us back to the question here. What time value gets the count of 1? Most of the time it'll be the quarter note. In 6/8 time it'll be the eighth note, right? In a slow movement of a Mozart sonata, it might be that the eighth note gets the count of 1. So the 16th note would get the count of and the 32nd note would get the count of ta. 1 ta anta, 2 ta anta. So that makes it easier to handle that. And then if you run out of everything else and you've got these funny groups of notes that don't fit in together, you look at this idea. You get that. Well, I think that's enough about that. If there are any questions, oh yes. Well, then the final thing of the sight reading is you're going to get to play the thing now. You've done all this wonderful preparation, so you pretty well know the piece already, and it makes it so nice, and you start playing at a comfortable tempo, counting out loud. And there are even times and systems where you count out loud and you play really slowly and you do it with the metronome. But that's another sort of topic. We don't need to get in on that. Then we have a complete technical regime. How to teach the scales. Most systems of technique tell you what to teach, but they don't tell you how to teach it, and they don't tell you when to teach it. And we give you guidelines for that. Now, obviously, nothing is written in stone. You will have your own system. You will know how you want to do that. But if you need any assistance with that, or you need fresh ideas, or there's aspect of your present way of presenting it that you feel could be assisted, then we've got that. We've already talked about the scale chart and the fourth finger rule.